So we'll be having an exposition on the various Siddhantas like Advaita, Dvaita, Vishishta Advaita, Shuddha Advaita, Dvaita Advaita, and Achintya Bheda Bheda, the final one. So the first one that we are talking about is Advaita. That's the most famous one, propounded by Lord Shankaracharya, incarnation of Lord Shiva. So this Advaita philosophy is some of the, we already know the philosophy. So what we're going to discuss is some of the salient points of this philosophy basically. So some of the observations of this philosophy was that it's akin to the theory of evolution basically. It's pretty similar to that, but in a spiritual way. Like if you see Darwin's theory of evolution, he says that there was a primordial soup, and a non-cognizant primordial soup that existed, and from that soup there was suddenly some random mutations, and it's not like random mutations, it's like the soup was heated in to a particular degrees and Celsius, and then automatically there were some combinations that were formed inside the soup, and then life forms were created, and sentience or self-awareness into multiple life forms came from a non-self-aware existential soup basically. And then once the things became self-aware from this soup, life forms, they created more complex life forms and structures were created and stuff like that. So everything came from one primordial soup, which just was basically existence without any cognizance or without any kind of emotions. So basically Brahman theory, the theory of mayavada also or nirvishesha or Advaita also talks something like that in a more spiritual way. So it says that there was primarily an entity known as Brahman with no attributes, basically no attributes in the sense that there cannot be cognizance, there cannot be basically emotions in that. It's emotionless, cognizant-less, only Sat. There is no Chit and Anand. Actually, they say that Brahman is all knowledge, and sometimes they say Brahman is bliss. But basically, from the puristic point of view, Brahman cannot have attributes like knowledge and bliss and stuff like that. So, inherently, it can only, the one only attribute that can be attributable to Brahman by the purists is that it is exists, that's all. There's nothing more than that. It simply exists. Sat or existence is the only attribute that it has. So somehow a part of this Brahman goes into self-illusion, an illusion that simply exists, and there is no source of this illusion, okay, according to this theory. And illusion is that which is not. It is not some kind of Shakti, it's not some kind of force, it's not Yogamaya, it's nothing. It's some kind of basic, you can say something like a cancer, or just like the primordial soup got into a kind of combination. Of course, the primordial soup consists of many elements, and the combination of the elements caused that. But Brahman doesn't have any elements. It has no attributes, nothing. It's like the sky. It can have, it is avikara. It cannot be transforming into anything. It cannot, by its very nature, it is avikara. But as per this theory, inconceivably somehow or something happened, and a part of that Brahman got self-delusional, or something something happened to that, and that thing is known as Maya, that which is not. So it came under a complex phenomena happened to that Brahman, by which the Brahman became self-aware, self-cognizant, and it started to visualize itself as multiple personalities, like things like Sattva Guna, Raja Guna and Tamo Guna were imagined inside Brahman, because these gunas don't have existence actually as per the theory itself. Somehow Brahman imagined all these gunas, and then he came under these gunas, and that part of Brahman which came under Sattva Guna became Ishvara, and that part of Brahman which came under the illusion of Rajo Guna and Tamo Guna, that became the Jivas. So self-cognizance and self-awareness and individuality was created from a non-individual known as Brahman due to Maya, which does not exist, and Brahman which has no attributes, which is avikara, somehow transformed. A part of that too, not on full, only a part of that got transformed, and this avikara Brahman got transformed and it became self-aware. There was cognizance created, emotional things where the concepts that never existed in Brahman were created out of pure thin air. Sorry, there is no air, so purely thin Brahman. All these concepts were created, and Brahman started having emotions, and gunas were created. And now gunas themselves don't exist because there is nothing known as gunas. Brahman doesn't have gunas. It's nirguna. So somehow the gunas were created, and when Brahman that was covered by Sattva Guna became Ishvara, and the Brahman that was covered by Tamoguna, Rajaguna got imagined himself to be the jivas and multiple jivas. So multiple personality syndrome was created inside Brahman due to Maya, and Maya has got three gunas, and Maya itself does not exist, neither inside Brahman nor outside Brahman. It's not an entity. It is simply an imagination that was superimposed on Brahman by itself. Now, of course, Brahman has no attributes, so how can Brahman transform without any external cause? For example, if you have milk, for it to be transformed, there has to be something external to the milk that transforms it, like bacteria. Then it can get converted into curd. Or inherently, bacteria should be present inside the milk itself. Milk should have multiple combinative principles. Like, for example, if a person develops cancer in his body, then he should have multiple cells. And due to the interaction of these various cells, somehow or other, a part, due to the wrong interaction, a cancerous part can develop into a certain portion of the Brahman or a certain portion of the body. And now Brahman, somehow a part of Brahman is covered by cancer, what we call as illusion. But Brahman is like the sky. It has got absolutely no variety by which it can combine and wrongly combine and then create some transformation. It is single entity, there is only a single existential principle that exists. So that principle, which is unchangeable, somehow changes and creates illusory concepts which don't exist, like Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna, and then it comes under those illusory concepts and develops self-awareness, self-cognizance into multiple individuals, Ishvara and Jiva, and then it visualizes the world and the problems related to the world. So as you can see, the problem is extremely dangerous and extremely difficult, because it's as good as saying everything happened by magic. The logic is so basically illogical that if you want to understand this logic itself, it will be better to say that everything happened by magic. It just happened. Just forget it. It just happened. The logic itself is so problematic. Just like the theory of evolution. If you see the theory of evolution, they say that a primordial soup somehow had trillions and trillions of combinations by which a single cell was formed, and then this single cell, as per the normal theory, the single cell has no chance of survivability, but somehow it survives and it replicates itself. So replication was created from the primordial soup, and then the cells became multiple, and then it had to follow a complex path, like forming the human brain, the human eye, the various nerve cells which connects the eye to the body, and some liver and complex organisms. All these things randomly started happening. All the cause was random mutations, again and again random mutations causing extremely complex structures. And it's like one single cellular robot creating, self-replicating itself to multiple robots, and then these multiple robots combining themselves to create a bigger robot, and those multiple robots, and everything happening randomly without any intelligence, any guidance. So the problem is the narrative that you're painting is so improbable and so impossible to happen that it's better to say that everything, there was a big bang, and the combinations of atoms were so perfect that the world along with all human beings was created simultaneously. If you can say that just like magic it happened, that would will have more probability than imagining a complex structure from a single cellular organism, and the single cellular organism magically replicating into multicellular organisms. And so the probability of that is even less than the probability of magic happening and suddenly everything coming by itself. There was a bang, and then the whole universe as you see it right now just happened by a perfect combination of all the atoms joining together, and the perfect thing. People were walking and the cities were already created. Randomly it just happened, but just by one explosion. So there is a probability for that also. So that probability is still better, than the probability of single cellular organism going into. So the point is, the concept of Brahman is so difficult to logically explain that it's impossible, like in the sense ki it's illogical. It's as good as saying that I'm just saying that, so just accept it. So it's better to accept it that way. So there is no logic in that. They say that the logic is so scarce in that it is better to say that it just happened. Just think like that. Don't think about logic. It just happened. Just think that's it. That's finished. That's the thing. So the narrative that is presented in Brahman, the concept of Brahman, is that difficult actually. That it's better to think that, just accept my word for it. So the Mayavadis or the Nirvisheshavadis giving logic to explain their concept, that makes their concept even more foolish actually. It makes the concept more, it's like, they're making fun of themselves. So it's better that they say that, just it's there in the Shastra, somehow just accept this is the thing. That's it. There's nothing. Don't question these things. So it's that difficult. So that's the Advaita theology. And now, of course, because it was propounded by one of the greatest personality in the universe, Shankaracharya, and his purpose, of course, was to destroy. His entire purpose is always to destroy. Whenever there is destruction, he is called in, actually, Lord Shiva, for destroying things. So basically, Lord Krishna called Lord Shiva because he wanted to destroy the entire system as it is and create the whole system again. So destruction ke liye Lord Shiva was called in, and he did his job very perfectly well under the instruction of Lord Krishna himself. So there was no problem in that. And then comes the theory of Dvaitavad. In Dvaitavad, as I understand, is basically that the living entity and the Lord are completely different individuals. There is no relationship then. Of course, the living entities all come from the Lord, Om Purnamadam, but the Lord does not transform. Unlimited living entities are coming out of the Lord, and the universe, Jada universe as we know it, the three entities, the dead universe, the living jivas, and the Lord, the relationship is absolutely different. Like the Lord is like the Father, and these things are like the Son. Once the Son comes out of the Father, there is no relation between the Son and the Father. They exist separately and as master and servants. So you can go back to Vaikunta, you can come from Vaikunta, whatever, but the relationship is that of master and servant, and there is no connection between either the living entity or the Lord. They are separate from the beginning until the end. Like, although the living entities may have emanated from the Lord, but they're separate entities. They have no qualitative oneness and they don't have quantitative oneness. Absolutely everything is different, and they exist like that separately in the spiritual world also. After you go back, after you attain mukti, you still are completely different entities. You are independent doer. You have no connection with Krishna. It's not that you have any particular, you are a separate doer. You have your own independence. You have your own free will. Everything is you are completely different. You don't work according to Krishna. But if you serve Krishna, you'll be happy. If you don't serve Krishna, you'll not be happy. Just like a son, if he serves the father, he'll be happy. If the son doesn't. So the concept doesn't happen that Krishna is the ultimate doer of all the things in the world. That is not acceptable, because the living entity is independent of Krishna. So nothing is controlling the living entity. He is completely independent of Krishna, as per this theory. So now what happens here is that it's good to, this theory is, of course, it's a very perfect Vaishnav theory, but the finer concepts of like Shaktis, like what is Radharani and stuff like that, that is not explained through this theory. Where is that position of their internal potency? So then comes Ramanujacharya's theory of Vishishta Advaita, but Vishishta means there are multiple personalities existing. So what is Vishishta Advaita theory says? It says that the living entity and the Lord and the Jada universe, they have, of course, the universe and everything has come from the Lord, but they have a relation with the Lord. They integrated with the Lord, but they are qualitatively different from the Lord. They are not qualitatively one. Quantitatively they are different and qualitatively they are different, but they have a very special relation with the Lord, like an integrated relation, and therefore they are Advaita or one with the Lord. In the sense, like imagine you have got a soul and you have got a body. Now the body is qualitatively different from the soul. There is no quality difference, quality similarities between body and Atma. But Atma controls the body and the body works as per the Atma. So therefore, for all practical reasons, we treat the body as good as Atma, just like a great saint. Now when we keep his leg on our head, we don't say, Arey, we are keeping the leg on my head, but ultimately you are giving me blessing, but your soul is not giving me blessing. It is your leg that is giving me blessing, but you are not the leg. So what's the use? You don't say like that. When you take blessings from a soul, you consider his body and soul or whatever it to be same. Now of course for a pure devotee, his body and soul is actually same because he has got a spiritual body. But for all practical reasons also, if you have a Madhyamadikari devotee and you want to embrace him or if you love him, you know that he is not the body, the soul, but you still serve his body just like you would serve his soul. Because just like we say spiritual master is representative of Krishna, so we serve Krishna. So in that sense, in the same way, you don't consider the body and the soul to be different when you're interacting with people, right? You love them as, although you know, even if perfectly Uttamadikari devotee, when he is blessing you, he also knows that you are not the body, but still he blesses your head. Although he knows that you are a soul and you are not the body, but even a pure devotee of Krishna, he will bless you, he will give you blessing. Even Krishna, when he embraces Arjuna or he embraces a Kubja or some material person also, he will treat the body of the material person to be equal to his soul. Because Krishna also says, for all practical purposes, your body itself, you yourself, I am considering you as non-different from your body. Although Krishna knows that this, my devotee, his body is different from his soul, but still he will treat him as an integrated unit, because the soul is very closely integrated to the body and therefore the body is non-different or Advaita from the soul. Similarly, Ramanujacharya says that Jivatma, Jada universe, they are both like body of the Vishwatma or Paramatma. And of course that is Paramatma, the realization for them, because they have, their whole concept is of Vishnu, Lord Vishnu. Vishnu is Paramatma, four-handed form. So because their highest goal is Paramatma, so they also have that Paramatma Bhakti concept integrated into the philosophy itself. That Paramatma is the ultimate reality. And Paramatma is permeating every part of the universe. And he is the Vishvatma. The universe is like his body. And therefore the universe is non-different from the Paramatma in that sense. But the universe is qualitatively different and quantitatively different. So when you go back to Vaikuntha, still you will be, so there is some amount of, because the body works as per the desire of the soul, in that sense, the understanding that Yogamaya is controlling every living entity and the living entity is ultimately working for the desire of Krishna, that is accepted in Ramanujacharya's philosophy. So ultimately he accepts that the material world, all in the spiritual world, we are all working under the direction of Krishna. So if you choose to leave Krishna, then Maya will force us to work for Krishna. Just like in the material world, she is forcing us to work for Krishna. But we don't know that. We think we are working, we are the doers, we are the ultimate controllers. But ultimately Maya, she is making us work for Krishna. And what is that work? That work is getting beaten up by material energy. That Krishna is like Tom and Jerry. So all those things are there. So similarly, just like in Mahabharata, Duryodhan and Arjuna. Arjuna is like Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam. He is doing devotion in a very favorable form for Krishna. So he is under Yogamaya, the positive energy of Krishna. But Duryodhan has chosen not to serve the Lord. So he is also engaged inside Mahabharata to serve the Lord, but as a villain. And getting beaten is his only entertainment. Getting defeated, getting beaten in his every endeavor is what gives pleasure to Krishna. Just like for the Jivatma in the material world, getting beaten and getting his every desire squashed is the thing that gives pleasure to Krishna. Because Krishna wants every living entity to come back to spiritual world. So he has made everybody, his only job is to make every devotee, every sadhaka and every non-devotee's life into dukkhalayam, ashashvatam. Not pure devotees. Pure devotees are in different category. For them, they have spiritual bodies, so that for dukkha and sukha are absolute bliss for them. There is no duality of pain and pleasure for them. But for materialistic people like us, who are partial sadhakas, half sadhakas, quarter sadhakas, for all of us, Krishna has two enjoyments. One is he enjoys spiritual rasa with us, Like we are offering food to Krishna, we are offering Harinam, we dance for Krishna. So he's experiencing his Nitya Leela with us, and he is also experiencing Sansar Leela with us. And what is that Sansar Leela? Because we are attached to the material world, he is going to remove that attachment by beating the hell out of us. That is his Sansar Leela. So the more we get detached from the material world and the pleasures and the pains of the material world, and become completely neutral and impersonal towards the material events, then Krishna will not enjoy Sansar Leela with us. He will become bored, and that is the goal of our life, to make him bored in the Sansar Leela. And we put all our emotions and all our bhav, because Krishna is bhavagrahi janardana. So you put your all emotions into devotional service of the Lord, like offering prasad, chanting, dancing, feasting, and you put more and more bhav into that, then Krishna will enjoy Nitya Leela with you. And the more he enjoys Nitya Leela and the less he enjoys Sansar Leela, then because this world is working as per Krishna's desire, not your desire, for his entertainment. So when he does not get entertainment from the Jivatma in his Sansar Leela, so Jivatma is not attached to the Sansara. So Krishna cannot get any enjoyment of beating him. All his job is finished. So Krishna will tell Maya, okay, I am not getting any entertainment in the Sansar part of Leela. So I only want Nitya Leela from him, 100%. No Sansar Leela. So when that 100% it happens, Krishna enjoys only spiritual Leela with you and he enjoys no material Leela with you, then you will go back to the spiritual world. So ultimately in this theory, as you know, which is this is Achintya Bheda Bheda also. So in this thing, Krishna is the real enjoyer. And you are simply like Duryodhan, assisting him either as Duryodhan or Arjuna, you are just assisting him in his pastime. If you remain a non-devotee, you are assisting him in his pastime of beating you and making your life miserable. That is his pastime. And if you become a devotee, then enjoying with you becomes his pastime in the spiritual realm. So that is the thing. Of course, now Krishna, there is at a deeper level when you understand that Krishna, he enjoys beating, hitting everything, even with his devotees. Like, he gives trouble to even Yashoda Maya, he gives trouble to everybody. But that trouble is because that is the nature of Krishna. After some time, he gets mischievous. And he will become mischievous. That's his nature. Sometimes he'll become sweet, sometimes he'll become mischievous, and he enjoys all rasas. But those rasas, because those devotees have no attachment to the material world, they are nitya siddhas. That's why their bodies are spiritual. Their bodies are spiritual, and because their bodies are spiritual, they don't experience any pain of the material world or any pleasure of the material world. So for them, everything is bliss. Suffering is bliss. Getting beaten up is bliss. Govardhan Leela, where the whole water is, whole Vrindavan is being inundated by water, that is also bliss. Absolute bliss. In the spiritual world, there is no duality of suffering and pain and happiness. There is nothing like that. Everything is happiness. So there also Krishna will do mischief. That's not that Krishna doesn't do mischief there. So there also, but there the goal of mischief is not to put the devotees into trouble or something, but the whole idea of there is to enjoy rasas with the devotees by putting them under various happiness and distress and stuff like that, so that he can enjoy rasas in various ways with the devotees. But in the material world, his primary goal is to frustrate every single desire of the devotees. Spiritual world, that is not that, because the devotees have only desire to please Krishna in the spiritual world. So there is the Leela for him, like, putting them into trouble, creating heroism and defeating the demons and stuff. That's just Leela. But in the material world, his primary goal is to put the jivas into trouble. That is his only entertainment. So the more you are attached to the material world, the more you display emotions and you get emotional, the more he will, play Tom and Jerry with you. So basically this world is meant for Krishna's enjoyment. So in Vishishta Advaita philosophy of Ramanujacharya, this part is accepted. What is accepted? That the living entity can have no independence. Whereas in Madhvacharya's Dvaita philosophy, the point was that living entity was independent of Krishna, and the world, living entity has his own life, Krishna has his own life, and so as long as living entity serves Krishna, he will be happy. If it doesn't serve Krishna, he will not be happy. But living entity works independent of Krishna. He has independent free will, because that freedom is completely given, because Dvaita, there is a difference. The freedom is there, the individuality, completely freedom is there. But in Vishishta Advaita, as you can see, the body has no free will, but its only free will is to act as per the desire of the soul. Whether it wants to know whether to what to serve the soul or not, it has to act. So if the hand says that I don't want to give the glass of water to the body, then the brain of the body, the Maya, will convince the hand that, oh, you take this water and offer it to the mouth for your own pleasure, for your own enjoyment. You offer this to the mouth, and the body under false ego will think that, oh, it's for my enjoyment that I'm doing the same thing. So it will do the same thing. It will offer the water to the mouth because that is the desire of the soul, Krishna. So Krishna's desire will be carried out. But now he'll carry out the desire thinking that I am Ahankar, thinking that I am the enjoyer, I am the one. But he'll still carry out Krishna's desire. Like Duryodhana is carrying out all of Krishna's desires. Without Duryodhana there can be no Mahabharata. Without Hiranyakashipu there can be no Narsimha Leela. But all of them are carrying out their thinking that I am the doer, I am the one who is enjoying, I am the enjoyer. But Krishna is the enjoyer. Without Duryodhana there can be no Krishna Leela. He is serving Krishna, but he is not getting paid for that. He is just getting kicked and beaten. That is his payment. Whereas Arjuna is experiencing bliss. Kaliya is also dancing with Krishna. Krishna wants to dance with Kaliya, so he is dancing with Krishna. But out of false ego, that I am trying to hurt Krishna. I am independent of Krishna. I am doing everything of my own, and then he suffers. When Krishna's feet becomes like thunderbolts, the same feet becomes like soft lotuses when he dances with the gopis, because they want to serve Krishna. Anukule Krishna Anushilanam. He is Pratikula Krishna Anushilanam. Anushilanam is there, always there in bhakti. Everybody is doing bhakti. But except for those people who are not doing Anushilanam or service, and they are the impersonalists, the mayavadis. They go and merge. There is no Anushilanam in that. That is what Krishna hates mayavadis more than demons also. More than devotees, devotees he loves. Demons he loves demons also, because they also he loves to fight with them. But with mayavadis there is no entertainment for Krishna. Finished. They go and merge into something. So they are the worst people. Impersonalists. There is no Anushilanam at all in that. At least in Pratikula Bhakti there is Pratikula Anushilanam, Anukula Anushilanam. Something is there. So Ramanuja does accept that the body-soul relationship exists between the Jiva and the Lord, and between the Jada universe and the Lord. So everything is working as per the Atma or Paramatma's desire. He is the enjoyer. And all the living entities are his, whether knowingly or unknowingly, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, they are all serving Krishna in his enjoyment, because the body has to serve the soul. So that is accepted. But body is qualitatively also different from the soul. So here quality also is different and quantity is also different in Vishishta Advaita philosophy. Then comes Shuddha Advaita philosophy. This gets closer now. Shuddha Advaita says that everything is Brahman. In that sense, the Jivatma is qualitatively one with God, also Brahman. So he calls the Jivatma also Brahman, and the Lord also as Brahman, Parabrahman of course. So he says, in this philosophy of Vishishta Shuddha Advaita, he comes very close. He says qualitatively, quantitatively it's not the same. He says Jivatma is small, Lord is huge. Like we are the spark, he is the fire. The analogy that Vallabhacharya gives. But he very clearly says that the Jivatma somehow or the other, it is qualitatively similar to Lord, except for one quality is not there in the Jivatma. So Satchitananda, so he comes to the, so here the Satchitananda is not accepted only by Ramanuja. He says body and soul. Body is completely different from soul. Body is material, soul is spiritual. Similarly, Jiva is completely qualitatively different from Paramatma. Whereas in Shuddha Advaita, Jivatma and Paramatma are both qualitatively one, except one quality, that is Ananda. The prerogative of the Supreme Lord is he is full of Ananda. Anandamayo Abhyasat only applies to the Lord. He is purely full of Ananda. He has got the Ladini Shakti. Radharani is only his possession. Nobody else can possess that quality. No Jivatma can possess the Ananda quality. So then how does Jivatma experience Ananda? By serving the Lord. When the Jivatma serves the Paramatma, although Jivatma is qualitatively very close, it's qualitatively one with Brahman, so that in that sense the Sat part of the Jivatma and the Sat part of the Lord is non-different. The Chit part also is non-different as per Vallabhacharya, no problem. He is also cognizant and the Lord is also cognizant, and the cognizance comes from the Lord's cognizance. So in that way they are both related, and they are like have a relation like a fire and a spark. Spark has got all the qualities of fire, whereas the body and the soul qualities are different. Whereas spark and fire, the qualities are same, but spark does not have certain fire qualities that fire has possesses. And what is that qualities? He says the quality of ananda is absent in the soul, and by serving the supreme personality of Godhead, the Lord can provide that ananda to the soul. And as long as the Lord and the soul is anukula Krishna Anushilanam, as long as he is doing favorable devotional service to the Lord in the spiritual or in the material world, he will experience ananda proportionally as supplied by Lord. But if the living entity decides not to serve the Lord, not to give pleasure to the Lord, then that ananda will be withdrawn, and the living entity in the material world becomes nirananda. The quality itself is lost. So he doesn't say that the material world is made up of, even the Jada material world, he calls it Brahman only. He says that is also, the existence itself is Brahman. So there is no difference between material and spiritual world in that sense. There is no Bhairanga Shakti as per Achintya Bheda Bhed. So that thing is not explained. He says even the material world is Brahman and the spiritual world is also Brahman, but because the material world is primarily used not for serving the Lord, so the ananda is removed from the material world. So material world becomes a place of misery, whereas the same material world is used for service of the Lord, and the same material body is also used for service of the Lord, that becomes blissful and the spiritual quality is regained. But the spiritual quality is regained only as long as you are serving the Lord with that particular instrument. If the instrument is again used for sense gratification and not for service of Lord, that material, the quality of ananda is removed. So the quality of ananda is not an inherent quality of the Jada universe or of the living entity. So Jada universe may not have the quality of Chit also. It is Achit. That also he accepts. Whereas the Jivatma has got Chit and Sat, whereas Jada universe has got spiritual Sat, that is, it has got the quality of existence. So material world is Brahman, it has got the quality of existence. It may not have the quality of Chit or cognizance, self-awareness, whereas Jivatma is Sat and Chit, but it doesn't have the quality of Ananda. Because the living entity does not have the quality of Ananda, that is why he is dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead every time for Ananda. And as long as he serves the Lord, he will be in Ananda. And if he does not serve the Lord, he will not be in Ananda. Jai Shri Prabhupada, Jai Subhadra Devi, Radharani, Jai Reshna Maya, Jai Acharya. So, Vishishta Advaita, Shuddha Advaita comes very close to the Achintya Bheda Ved Tattva, or it comes very close to even closer than Vishishta Advaita, because qualitatively two qualities have been attributed to the soul and one quality to the living, to the Jada universe. So in that sense they are non-different from, everything is Brahman. Even Jada universe is Brahman because Sat quality is manifested. Even the Jivatma is Brahman because the Sat quality is manifested. Jivatma is also Chit quality is manifested, but Ananda quality is missing in the Jiva. So he accepts that the Lord is Sat, Chit, Ananda, Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini, and Jivatma is also Sat, Chit, that's all. No Ananda is there. So that part is Shuddha Advaita Vad philosophy. And I have not studied the Nimbarkacharya's Dvaita Advaita. In Dvaita Advaita also there is like absolute relationship like a fire and spark, but in Dvaita Advaita there is one more attribute that is there, which says that the spark for its survival itself has to completely depend on the fire. Without the fire the spark cannot exist or survive. So that that complete independence is removed. Just like the body can still exist without the soul, but it will be dead. But here in this case it is mentioned that the spark cannot exist without fire. Fire has to be constantly connected with the fire. So in the Dvaita Advaita philosophy, It is almost similar to Shuddha Advaita, but and Vishishta Advaita, somewhere in between. But it says that the living entity is qualitatively one. There is so much quality similarities between the both the Lord and the living entity. But even the Jada universe and the living entity, they cannot exist only unless they are constantly connected to the source of the energy or Krishna, Parabrahman. They have to be constantly connected. Without the connection with the Lord, they simply cease to exist. In Shuddha Advaita, that the Ananda part is not there. So, but other parts are inherently present. So it's dependent on the Lord, no doubt. Both are like similar in that sense. So the dependence of the spark on the fire, that is stressed inside Dvaita Advaita philosophy, that without fire you cannot even exist. There is no chance of your existence. And now, as we can understand, now we come to Achintya Bheda Bhed, which is like the most difficult part of among all the philosophies, because here we will leave you at the point where you will understand what is Achintya. A point will come where you will, when I try to explain this philosophy, a point will come where you will be bewildered. You will say that I cannot understand this concept only. So that part which is not understandable, that part will be Achintya. So we will exactly point out which part is Achintya in that, and that will explain all the philosophies. And it is the closest you can come to Krishna, Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva, and it can explain all the existence of the various Shaktis also, which the other philosophies cannot explain. They can explain the Jada universe, the Jivatma and the Lord. But what about the Shaktis? Sandhini Shakti, Samvit Shakti and Ladini Shakti. These Shaktis are as powerful as God himself. What about Shiva Tattva? It is not, it is very difficult to explain using Vishishta Advaita and Dvaita and also so many others. So to explain these personalities, there is no other way except Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva, because Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva has got different kind of Achintya Bheda Bhed between Lord and Shiva, Lord and his Shaktis, and Lord and Jivatma. So they are different, and Lord and Jada universe. So there are, of course, Jada universe is Lord Shiva's body only. So anyways, so it's like Lord Shiva and Krishna only. So that way Achintya Bheda Bhed will explain everything. So what does Achintya Bheda Bhed say? Achintya Bheda Bhed, the explanation itself is Achintya. It is inconceivable and it's impossible to understand, because there is no example in this universe of in our experience of such a thing. What it is going to explain, only Lord Chaitanya can explain that. We just have to accept it as it is, without any correlations or metaphorical understandings, because there is no metaphors that exist like that. So in Achintya Bheda Bhed, it says like this: the only metaphor that you can explain, understand is the best metaphor that Prabhupada explains Achintya Bheda Bhed is fire and heat and light and spark. Now the fire, of course, in Shuddha Advaita also it's explained, but here it is very difficult. Here the concept of individuality is explained. Okay. Now, till now, nobody was talking about individuality, because that part is inconceivable. What is the meaning of an individual? When I say I am an individual, what do you mean? Am I Sat, am I Chit, or am I Ananda? What am I? No, an individual is separate from Sat, an individual is separate from Chit, and individually separate from Ananda. And what is that individual? That individual is Krishna. And that individual, living entity. That individuals are also Shaktis. So what is this individuality? That is inconceivable. Nobody can understand what is Ascharyavat Paschati Kaschidenam. As they say, individuality cannot be understood. So let me explain to you very nicely. So Krishna has got three parts. If you say what is Krishna, the absolute truth, he has got three components. And from Krishna comes everything that you know. The universe, as per Achintya Bheda Bhed, everything is Krishna's part of Krishna only. Krishna's body or combination of Parasya Shaktir Vividheva Shruyate Swabhaviki Jnana Bala Kriyacha Sandhini Samvit Ladini. So a combination of Sandhini Samvit creates everything. So what is Sandhini Samvit Ladini? So this is the most difficult part to understand. Now Krishna has got his body. That body is known as Sandhini Shakti of Lord Krishna. Okay. Now that body of Krishna is the source of all spiritual and material universes. Janmad Yasya Yataha Brahmajoti. That part is known as Brahman. But that Brahman is known as Sat. And that Sat is known as Sandhini Shakti. It is a lady. Brahman is a lady. It is shocking actually. But Brahman is a lady. That lady is Sandhini Shakti. Now this Sandhini Shakti is Krishna's body. If you say there is no Sandhini Shakti, there is no Krishna. Finished. There is no Krishna. He cannot exist only without his body. His existence itself is a person by the name Sandhini Shakti. Similarly, Krishna's cognizance or life force, now it's so important, the very life force by which Krishna is cognizant or self-aware, or his cognizance, is actually a person known as Samvit Shakti. Now all these Sandhini, Samvit and Ladini are coming from Krishna. Remember it, it's not ulta. It is not that Sandhini is causing Krishna's body. No, Krishna is causing Sandhini to exist. That you have to understand. That's why he is known as Arupa in one sense. We'll come to that also. Vedanta Sutra, where Vyasadeva says Arupa eva hi tat pradhanatvat, because he is pradhan, he is the source of everything. Therefore in the Vedas he is known as Arupa. Why? It's not mayavada, it is not nirvishesha, because he is the source of Sandhini Shakti. And who is he? He is an individual. What is individuality? Individuality is inconceivable. You cannot conceive what is the meaning of an individual. So let us ask, Krishna has got a body. That body is known as Sandhini Shakti. Krishna has got a cognizance. That cognizance aspect of Krishna by which he became self-aware, that cognizance is also a devotee of Krishna. Everything in the spiritual world is a person. Just like Ganga is a person. She is a water, but her body is Ganga, but she is person. So in the same way, Krishna, his cognizance is a person by the name of Samvit Shakti. She is the one who is a personification of cognizance aspect of Krishna. And Krishna's emotions, pleasure, pain, rasas, everything that Krishna experiences, that is a person by the name Ladini Shakti, Radharani, who is non-different from Krishna also, because his emotions represent the personification of Krishna's emotions, is another person by the name Radharani. This is multiple personality. You see, in the mayavada there is no personality. Everything is there is no persons. Here everything is a person. Krishna's part is a person. In Achintya, Bheda, Bhed, every part of Krishna is a person, right from the individual soul to his Shaktis, to Lord Shiva is a person. These are various categories of Krishna's own energies, right from living entities, everything. So what is happening? The problem is, who is Krishna? Who is Krishna? Krishna's body. Krishna is Krishna's body, Krishna's cognizance aspect, a body which is cognizant and which is full of bliss, which is full of, like Krishna has got emotions. So Krishna's body, mind and emotions. If you remove Krishna's body from Krishna, or Krishna's mind from Krishna, or Krishna's emotions from Krishna, what will remain? There will be no Krishna actually, right? There will be no Krishna. If Krishna does not have cognizance, how can Krishna exist? Achintya, how is it possible? But cognizance is another person. It is not Krishna. It is Samvit Shakti. It is not Krishna. It is Achintya Bheda Bhed. Hare, how can you separate cognizance from a person himself? Like Jivatma is life, alive. How can you take life from Jivatma? No, but the life is another person. Jivatma is not life. So who is Jivatma? Who do you call that individual who takes the decisions, from whom everything is coming or from whom everything is going? That is inconceivable. We don't know what is the meaning of individuality. Individuality cannot be grasped by the living entity. Individual is an individual. So Krishna is the individual. He has got three components: Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini. Now if you say Krishna is equal to Sandhini, no, as an individual he is not equal to Sandhini. Is he as an individual equal to Ladini? No, as an individual he is separate from Ladini. So is he equal to Samvit Shakti? No, as an individual he is not Samvit Shakti. So what is individuality? Achintya. It's impossible it's impossible to conceive individuality. What is individuality? That is impossible to conceive. So from an individual known as Krishna comes Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini. But Krishna has no meaning without Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini. His individuality itself is a cause of Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini. Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini is Krishna only. There is Krishna's own body, Krishna's own mind, and Krishna's own emotions. You cannot separate body, mind, and emotions from the spiritual body, not material. So if you have a spirit soul has three components: Sat, Chit, Ananda. If you remove Sat, Chit, and Ananda from the soul, what is the soul? There is no soul. Soul simply doesn't exist. But when you combine Sat, Chit, and Ananda, there is another individual who is neither Sat, who is neither Chit, who is neither Ananda. And that fourth individual, 1 plus 1 plus 1 should be 3, but 1 plus 1 plus 1 gives rise to a fourth individual. And that fourth individual is known as you. You are the individual. So your components, if you were to dissect the components of the spirit soul, you will have three parts. What one part is lent to you by Samvit Shakti, Sandhini Shakti. She gives you the body aspect. That body is enlivened or cognizant, is made cognizant by the Samvit Shakti of Lord Krishna. So she is another lady. So there are three ladies within the soul. Remember that. Three ladies have lent their Shaktis to create the soul. This is not creation and everything. I'm just etymologically explaining. It's not chronological. There is no creation. The soul exists as long as Krishna exists. It's like simultaneously the soul and Krishna and everything exists. Just like fire, heat, light, sparks exist simultaneously. The moment fire is there, heat and light is there. It's not when fire comes and heat comes and light comes. It's not possible. There's no time. Instant is there heat and light. There's no meaning to fire without heat and light. Similarly, the spark is created from fire, fire's components. So the component of fire, from Krishna's, we are part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna has got three major core components. Those core components of Krishna are Sandhini, by which Krishna's body is created. So our body, spiritual body, is created from Sandhini. Our life is coming from Samvit, which is a lady. So our life, if you say individual is the life, if you say like that, you're wrong. The life or cognizance or mind or intelligence, everything that you have, that is not you, because that is Samvit Shakti of Lord Krishna. She is another lady. So who are you? Now you say, I'm not the body, so I'm the soul. But who are you as a soul? That is a bigger question. And that question is Achintya. That it cannot be answered. So, are you the body, spiritual body of the soul? Yeah, you are the spiritual body, is your soul's body. But are you as an individual the body? No, the body is Sandhini Shakti. So, then you must be the consciousness part. That is you. You are taking the decisions as a soul, or you are experiencing the pain and pleasure. Yes, you are experiencing whatever it is, but that cognizance aspect that from which you are experiencing is coming from another devotee of Lord Krishna, known as Samvit Shakti of Lord Krishna. And the third aspect of the soul, Ananda, or emotions that you experience, the pain and the pleasure and the happiness and distress and the rasas that you are experiencing, that is coming from third Shakti of Lord Krishna, known as Ladini Shakti or Radharani's component within you. So, but who are you? When these three things are together, you exist and you have nothing more than these three things. But the decision is yours, the experiencer of all of these things. You are the one who's experiencing these things. Radharani is not experiencing directly. She's indirectly through, she can experience, but not directly. You are the one who takes the decision. Not, of course, you're not taking the decision. They are only taking, Yogamaya is taking the decision on your behalf. But still, you're not the doer. You're being controlled. But still, you are experiencing. Who is the person who's experiencing everything? Oh, I am the person. I am the individual. Who is that? That person is known as individual. And he is neither Sandhini, nor Samvit, nor Ladini. So, he is a product of Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini. And Lord is the source of Sandhini, Samvit and Ladini. He is Pradhana. He is the source of everybody. Because Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini combine to form the material, spiritual and all the other worlds. This is completely inconceivable. Krishna is a person, but the personality is coming from Samvit Shakti. It's a combination of three Shaktis. A person is created from his body, his mind and emotions. Without that, how can a person be there? He is the source of body, mind and emotions, of all the universe, of all Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini ka source. That becomes difficult. So what is an individual? From an individual, this whole thing has come. But the individual is, what do you mean by individual? Is an individual the cognizance part by which he is able to understand things? Oh, I am there, you are there. That is not the individual. That is Samvit Shakti. That is another person. So what do you mean by individual? Inconceivable. Individuality cannot be conceived. From one individual comes three parts. Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini, and from those three parts, the individual, there is nothing other than these three parts. If you say Krishna, he is nothing more than these three parts. But these three parts are coming from Krishna. Jivatma is nothing more than Sat Chit Ananda. If you remove Sat Chit and Ananda, Jivatma will be dead. There will be nothing. He will not even exist without Sat. There is no existence, there is no life, and there is no emotions. Finished. Where is the individual? There is no individual. But when you combine these things, as a product of these things comes an individual, Jivatma, and the Jivatma gets an individuality. And he says, I am an individual. And that individual is neither of these three things. Sandhini, Samvit. He is Achintya, Bhed, and Abhed is there. He is neither Sandhini nor Samvit nor Ladini, but he is a fourth individual. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is not 3, but it is 4. It's inconceivable. And this explains the whole universe. Imagine fire has got heat and light. Okay. And touch. It has got touch. You can touch fire and you can see, oh, I can touch the fire. The concept of, so touch is there, heat is there, light is there. The three core components of fire. Touch, heat and light. If you remove touch, if you remove heat, if you remove light, there is no fire. But fire, if it was, if you were to attribute individuality, if you say fire is a person from which heat, light and touch has come. So fire as a whole, it is fire. He is the fire. He is the source. He controls heat, light and everything. Everything within his body he controls. Everything he controls. But still, he is neither heat nor light nor fire. Heat is supposed to be another individual. By the name, say Radharani. Light is supposed to be Radharani. Heat is supposed to be Samvit Shakti. And touch is supposed to be Sandhini Shakti. The fire has got touch, heat and light. These three components were supposed to be three devotees. So, these three devotees are integrated with Krishna. They are non-different from Krishna. Radharani and Krishna are one. They are not. Shakti and Shaktiman are one. They are not different from each other. But as an individual, fire is fire. He is an individual separate from heat, light, everything. That's why Krishna in the Shastras is known as Arupa, Nirguna. All these things, why is he called? The core, if you are to understand this, then you will understand all the components of mayavada is finished. Tat pradhanatvat, because he is the source of everything. Then you say, oh, that means Krishna is formless. No, he is not formless, because he is integrated with the form. Sandhini cannot be removed, otherwise there will be no Krishna. If you cannot remove form from Krishna, you cannot remove all these things from Krishna, because these things are integrated with Krishna. It is inseparable. They are Achintya, inconceivably one and different from Krishna. You cannot say, I'll remove this thing, then Krishna is a formless person, from his form has come and everything has come. No, that is not right. Krishna, it's not that Krishna is an individual, individuality, from individuality comes form. No. Individuality is nothing more than form, cognizance and emotions. They are integrated. Without that there cannot be individuality. But individuality, from Krishna's perspective, his individuality was a source of body, that is Sandhini, Samvit and Ladini. Individuality, he as an individual was source of that. He was source of that. But it is his own body, his own emotions, Radharani. And Radharani is not different from Krishna. You see? It is his own body. You cannot say it is different from Krishna. I know individual Krishna is so individuality, so Krishna must be some formless entity. No, there is no entity only. There is no cognizance. Without cognizance, how can Krishna be existing? So Krishna simultaneously exists with his three Shaktis, and he is the source of those three Shaktis. So what must be he then? What is individuality? What do you mean by an individual? Now we are product of the same three Shaktis. Sat Chit Ananda. Jivatma is called as Sat Chit and Ananda. Jivatma, spiritual body, spiritual cognizance, and he has got emotions. So the three parts of the Jivatma are coming from Krishna through Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini, which are Krishna's core components. From those core components come the Jivatmas. Not chronological, again I'll tell you, it's not chronology, simultaneously. So this part is impossible to understand, impossible to conceive, because individuality is inconceivable. Individuality, what is individual? That is inconceivable. That is not something that you can conceive. What do you mean by individual? So the Shastra says, Jiva Upadhi, Ishvara Upadhi, Karana, the Upanishad, I think Chandogya Upanishad says that Ishvara Upadhi Karya, Jiva Upadhi Karana. Ishvara Upadhi Karya, Karana. Krishna's Upadhi is that he is the Karana, and Jiva's Upadhi is that he is the Karya. Karya means product of Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini, and Karana means he is the source of Sandhini, Samvit and Ladini. So he is the source. Jiva Upadhi. Upadhi is Upa Adhi, that which controls, the neighboring thing that controls you. Adhi means the controllership, that which controls or defines you, and Upa means that around you. So the defining characteristics of Jivatma is he is the product, and the defining characteristic of Krishna or Ishvara is that he is the source. Source of what? Sandhini Samvit. That is not mentioned. That is Sandhini Samvit Ladini. So if you understand this concept, that it is inconceivable to understand individuality, then you can understand all the Shastric understandings of why the Lord is known as Arupa, because Nirguna, because all these Rupas are how they are formed by a combination of Sandhini Samvit. What is his Rupas? They are Satchitananda Vigraha. The Vigraha is made from Sat, Chit and Ananda. Not just Sat. Sat is Krishna's body, but the body, the defining form of the body comes from Ananda. Like when the Lord goes into ecstasy, like Narsimhadev, the Brahman or the Lord's body is in the shape of Narsimhadev, because his mind changes. The moment his Ananda changes, the way Krishna thinks, his Chit changes. I mean, thinking of the Lord is known as pastimes. Prabhupada says in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, this thinking is known as pastimes of the Lord. And what are the avatars? They are known as Vaibhava avatars, and then a Prabhava avatar. So what is it defined? Vaibhav, pastime incarnation. That means he has changed his thinking only. So Krishna Prabhupada says the Swayam Rupa is when Krishna is thinking himself to be a cowherd boy of Vrindavan. So all the forms of the Lord are emotions of the Lord. They are not just forms, they are emotions which are mute, which are the Brahman is the body of the Lord, the mind is Chit. So the emotions change the mind changes the, transforms the, you cannot say transforms, it's like, it just gives rise to his body changing into a different form. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in a particular emotion of Radharani, his color becomes of his body. Brahman becomes golden in color. Or so they basically, Krishna is non-different from any part of the universe. So any part of the universe, if a devotee invokes a particular feeling, then that particular part will manifest. Krishna can manifest his emotions and that particular form from any part of his Brahman, because Brahman is his body. The whole universe, spiritual material, he can convert material into spiritual, spiritual into material. Like he was thinking on the pillar, oh, Narsimhadev is inside the pillar, and he manifested Narsimhadev from a pillar, Brahman. So the form is can be, Lord can manifest his form through any part, because just like the deity, Prabhupada says, Achintya, Bheda, Bhed Tattva. From any part of the Lord, he can make it spiritual. It is not that the deities are made of stone. It is Lord himself who is acting like he is a stone. He is Sakshad Vrajendra Nandana. So he can go, and because that Brahman is all his body, anywhere he can come out and he can make it into himself, and then that becomes himself. The stone is no longer stone. Stone is gone. It's like he himself is standing now and acting like a stone. So he can do that from any atom. So in the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam, Prabhupada says the greatest secret, the greatest mystery is that when a devotee can see the Lord in every atom, that is the greatest mystery of all of devotional service. Every part Krishna is present as Brahman, and any form the Lord devotee invokes, that mood, the Lord transforms that particular part into that particular mood, and he can manifest the devotee in any mood, because everything is part of Krishna's body. So this concept, of course, is the highest concept, because here you can understand all things. Why Lord can have form, can have not, because all the forms of the Lord is created from combination of Ananda. When the Ananda changes, then it's not created, it's existing, because Ananda is eternally existing. So all these forms are eternally existing. You cannot say they're just manifesting and non-manifesting in different places in the world. Just like the sun can manifest and cannot manifest at certain places. So already the bhav is already there, because the combinations are already eternally there. There is nothing new that is created. It's already there. Brahman is the body. All of universe is Brahman. And when that particular bhav is imbued, then that particular shape or that form is already there. When the Lord is feeling like I am a small kid, I want to run, then the form of Damodar Lord is assuming. And when he becomes Narsimhadev, Lord Lakshmi doesn't recognize Narsimhadev. It's not my husband. It's not Vishnu. because his mood has changed, his bhava has changed. When the bhava changes, Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha, he is not Sat Vigraha. He is Chit and Ananda Vigraha. So when the Chit and Ananda are blocked, then what is revealed is Sat, Brahma Darshanam. So that is a secret verse. I will not. Bhagavatam secret verse. एतद् रूपं भगवतो य रूपस्य चिदात्मा माया गुणनिर्विशेषं नभसि मेघौ यथा अथ परं व्यक्तम् अव्यूढगुणं ब्रह्मितम् अदृष्टाश्रुतवस्तुत्वा सजीवो यद्रेमे सद असद रूपे प्रतिसिद्धे स्वसंविद अविद्यया आत्मनि कृते इति तद् ब्रह्मदर्शनम्. Don't tell me with Sanskrit, because Yogamaya doesn't explain me Sanskrit. She says this is higher Sanskrit. It may not conform to Panini grammar, but it says yad reme sad रूपे असत प्रतिषिद्धे. Asat is removed, pratisiddhe, it stopped. Asat pratisiddhe, in Sat Rupe of the Lord, in these Sat forms of the Lord, Asat is pratisiddhe or stopped. Yadre mein Sad Asat Rupe pratisiddhe swa samvida, by samvid Shakti. Avidyayatmani krute, aisa, if such kind of an avidya were to be imposed on the Lord, on the, basically on the eyes of the onlooker, avidya atmani krute, iti tad brahma darshanam, then you will see Brahma Jyoti. The explanation given by the acharyas for this verse is completely different. They say it's some kind of different, it's a jivatma, it's not paramatma, something like that they explain, because it's hidden. It's an extremely secret verse which explains that if the Sat, if the Asat were to be blocked by an avidya or a samvit Shakti of Lord Krishna, what is Asat? Asat is Chit and Ananda. There are different meanings of Asat. Sat, Asat. Asat is that which is not Sat. What is not Sat? Sat, Chit, Ananda. What is not Sat? Chit and Ananda is not Sat. Asat is Chit and Ananda. The same, of course, in the material world, that Asat becomes Rajoguna and Tamoguna, and Sat becomes Sattva Guna. But that Sattva Guna is permanent because Sat is the cause of Sandhini Shakti of Lord Krishna, and that is cause of creation. Creation never changes. Brahman never changes. Avikari. That's why it is Sat is also known as permanent hardware. Mind is created from Sat in the material world. From the Ahankara layer of the Lord, mind is created, and that is Sat. And that Sat part, mind is the only reality in this world actually. When the Jivatma is integrated with the mind, then all the projections of Asat, that is Rajoguna and Tamoguna, projections on-side the mind. And then they are like viewing a video game, the experience of, because the subtle body or the Adhyatmika Sharira and the Adi and the gross material world, Adibhutik part, which is basically the Pancha Mahabhutas, which are created from Tamoguna, they are all projections inside the mind actually. It's like a dream for the living entity. It is not a factual. In the spiritual world, everything is created from Sandhini, but in the material world, Sattva is not creating everything. Sattva is simply creating the mind of the living entity, and since Devta post for the integration of the soul to the material world. If you see the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, so in that sense also, Asat is coming from the definition of Sandhini Samvid Ladini only actually, because Asat is subtle, or Asat is that which is like software, and Sat is like the hardware, like the physical body, and the mind and the emotions are always like subtle, or they actually they change the body. They create, so Vishuddha Sattva is spiritual world, Shuddha Sattva is Brahma Jyoti, and Sattva Guna of contaminated is the material world. So when the Sattva or Brahman, just like in the Shuddha Advaitavada, spiritual, everything is spiritual. But when the Shuddha Sattva is overlaid with Rajoguna and Tamoguna, which is perversions of Ladini and Samvit Shaktis, so then material world is manifested. When the Shuddha Sattva is not contaminated, it is known as Shuddha Sattva, which is known as Brahma Jyoti of Lord Krishna. And when that Shuddha Sattva is overlaid with, it is not overlaid because Sattva, Raja and Tamo, means Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini are integrated, but that is covered right now. In the material world, it is overlaid with something. Spiritual world, when the purity is removed, it's Vishuddha, it's not completely. So what is happening? The Rajoguna and Tamoguna is removed, then but somehow the Rajoguna and Tamoguna are covered by the Sandhini, Ladini and Samvit Shaktis, they are covered by some kind of avidya, then Brahma Jyoti is being experienced, Shuddha Sattva. But when those Ladini Shakti and Samvit Shakti of Lord Krishna are revealed, then they become Vishuddha Sattva, spiritual world, Golok Vrindavan, Krishna's body, everything. So So that is also like, now you can understand, you may get confused about how Krishna's form is created. What is it? So it is created from Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini. Like for example, it's not created, it is manifested, because these Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini are Krishna's integral. They are not separate from Krishna. They are part of Krishna himself. Achintya, Bheda and Abheda is there in that. So when Krishna's body, now imagine Krishna has got two hands and two legs, right? Now you'll say Krishna has got form. Form has supposed to have a starting point and ending point. It has got a delimiting factor. How can Krishna be limited? Everything is coming from Krishna only, Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini. So how do you understand form of Krishna? In the material and spiritual world, let us explain. So in the material world, Krishna has got two hands, two legs and is walking. In between the two hands, there is nothing known as Krishna. There is no Krishna. There is a space. Space is made from Akasha, Vayu, whatever it is. Okay. So that Vayu Akasha, where it is coming from? It is coming from Lord Krishna expanding as Mahavishnu, Balram, Sankarshan, and from Sankarshan Mahavishnu, and also from Sankarshan comes Lord Shiva, who is Sadashiva, and from Sadashiva the milk gets transformed into curd, Shambho Tattva, and the Shambho Tattva is the principle of matter or Pradhana, or the material cause. It is explained in the Brahma Samhita. The material cause or Pradhana is Shambho Tattva. So the other cause, which is like known as the Nimitta Karana, or the cause which is causing everything, that is Maya Tattva. So in the material world, Shambho Tattva, the matter is created. Akasha, Pancha Mahabhutas are created from Shiva's body, Lord Shiva's body. So the space between Krishna's hands and legs is Shambho Tattva in the material world. So Krishna has got a delimiting factor, the space, and where that Shambho Tattva is coming from, it is coming from Krishna only. So in one sense, does Krishna have form? No, because the space between Krishna's hands and the space between Krishna's legs is Shambho Tattva, which is also an incarnation of Krishna, because Krishna, Lord Shiva, is functional body of Krishna, non-different from Krishna. So it is coming from Krishna only. And the spiritual world, when Krishna is walking, then the space between Krishna's hands and legs is created from Balaramji, who is controlling the Sandhini Shakti of Lord Krishna and Yogamaya Tattva. So that is also coming from Krishna. So the space that is there between Krishna's spiritual, in the spiritual world when he is walking, his hands, legs, his body, everything is chiseled. And there is a space in between that, and that space is coming from Krishna only. That is also Krishna. The space between Krishna's hands and legs is also Krishna, but in a different form, in a different gradation, in a different combination of Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini. So in one sense, yes, Krishna does not have form, and in one sense Krishna has forms. That is also understood in this way. And his gunas and leelas, everything can be understood in this way, because everything is coming from Krishna's own Shakti. So as an individual, Krishna is the cause. So if you say Krishna tad pradhanatvat, in one sense, if you say that Krishna as an individual is the source of Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini. Now if you say the form of Krishna, it is created from a combination of Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini, and non different from Krishna directly. Krishna and his form are non different. But if you say Krishna is his form, he is this form is Krishna himself, then you will be mistaking Krishna from Sandhini Shakti of Lord Krishna. Because form is created from Krishna's body, and body is Sandhini Shakti of Lord Krishna. Then you'll say that as an individual, Sandhini and Krishna are one as an individual. So as an individual, Sandhini is not equal to Krishna. Sandhini is devotee of Krishna, and Sandhini is creating the form being modified by Samvit and Ladini, his emotions. So if you compare that Sandhini to be equal to Krishna, that will become mayavad. So saying that Krishna has form may become mayavad also at a higher level. So to avoid confusion, so to all this therefore we explain it in a different way, but the Vedanta Sutra explains in this way: Arupava eva hi tat pradhanatvat. He is known as Arupa only eva because he is pradhan, he is the source of everything. What is that source of everything? Source of Sandhini, Samvit and Ladini. Sandhini is the cause of modified by Ladini, and everything is the cause of Satchitananda Vigraha. Vigraha is coming from Sandhini. So if you say, then similarly the names, the forms, all are created by Yogamaya's combinations of all the various Shaktis, Sandhini, Samvit and Ladini, and Parasya Shakti, they are creating the various varieties, and all those things are, of course, they are all there. They are not created. They are simply manifested and unmanifested at different locations of the world. But all this is happening through Sandhini Samvit Ladini. And Krishna as an individual is the source of Sandhini Samvit. He is Pradhanatvat. So in that sense of the term, he can be called like beyond even all of these things. But there is no meaning to beyond that. That means because he cannot exist only without these things. Fire cannot exist without heat, light and touch. There is no meaning to fire. But fire is the cause of heat, light and touch. So how can you understand what is this individual? What is, because without cognizance there cannot be individual. Without having an existence there cannot be individual. Without having emotions there cannot be individual. Then what is an individual? Because from the individual it is coming, all these things are coming. Emotions, Sandhini, Samvit and Ladini, from that supreme individual, personality of Godhead Krishna. So what is this individuality? Inconceivable. You cannot try to conceive individuality. There is nothing that can conceive individuality. So that is Achintya, Bhed, Abhed. And from Lord Krishna comes Sadashiv, and from Sadashiv comes the concept of Shambho Tattva. Shambho Tattva is transformation of Sadashiv. Sadashiv is actually Vishnu Tattva. Sadashiv is Vishnu Tattva, and from Vishnu Tattva gets transformed into curd, and curd is matter. So Krishna is the source of Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini. There has to be a source of, for the material world's creation, there has to be a source. Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna. And the matter, Pradhana. So where is that source? That source is Shiva, Lord Shiva. Krishna's functional body, Prabhupada says. And that is curd transformed, milk transformed into curd. That is the whole thing. So as an individual, now he is separate. So now, so when you say about Mayavad theory, what Lord Shankaracharya did was, he copied the spiritual reality in the spiritual world, and he made that reality, and he copied that and made a duplicate copy and applied it in the wrong way. Just like, you mistake the snake to be the rope. Snake is real, rope is real, but when you misapply, you think that this snake is rope, that is the cause of problem. That is Mayavad. When you mistake the snake to be the rope, that becomes Mayavad. Now let me explain what it is. What is the reality? Reality is, in the spiritual world there is Mayavad. What is that Mayavad? Now, Sandhini, Samvit and Ladini are separate individuals. They are separate from Krishna. Okay? And we Jivatmas have got another Achintya, Bheda, Bhed Tattva. We are like spark, Krishna is like fire. They are like heat, light and touch. Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini. And Krishna is fire. So they are as infinite as Krishna. So there is a difference, Achintya, Bheda, Bhed. Similarly, Lord Shiva is a unlimited material universes are coming from Shiva's body. And so Lord Shiva is curd and his milk. So there is another Achintya, Bheda, Bhed between Shiva and Lord Krishna. That is Bhiranga Shakti is actually Lord Shiva's body, and Antaranga Shakti is Krishna. And of course Bhiranga Shakti, Durga, is like simply Yoga Maya, who is acting under Lord and modifying Lord Shiva's body, and she is using that to create Durga, which is a machine, and through that machine she creates all the material world. So Durga is simply a mechanism used by Yoga Maya, who works for Krishna. So ultimately when you see Yoga Maya and not Durga, you see Vasudevam Sarvamiti. Everything is being run by Yoga Maya for Krishna's pleasure in the material world, using Lord Shiva's body. So this whole concept is there. And now in this part, the problematic situation that we are discussing was that, what were we discussing? We were discussing that, yes, Krishna, what were we discussing? Shambho Tattva, yeah. So Krishna transformed, the milk gets transformed into curd, and curd is matter, and so milk is Krishna. So there is different Achintya, Bheda, Bhedas between Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva, between the Shaktis and Lord Krishna, and between the Jivatma and Lord Krishna. Okay, so there are different kinds of Achintya, Bheda, Bhed Tattvas that is existing. It's not the similar type of Achintya, Bheda, Bhed Tattvas. Now the spiritual Mayavad that we are discussing, what is that? There is no difference whatsoever between, as an individual, because you see, it's all about individuality. Fire is an individual, it's separate from heat as an individual, separate from light as an individual, and touch as an individual. Touch, heat and light are Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini as separate individuals. Fire is everything is fire. Overall fire is the individual. He is controlling heat, light, everything. He is also an individual, fire. From fire comes heat, light and everything. But fire is an individuality, cannot be understood. Now, but this Achintya, Bheda, Bhed does not apply between Krishnas. We have to be very clear. When is Balram a different person from Krishna? Can you apply Achintya Bheda Bhed to Krishna and Balram? No. There is no Achintya Bheda Bhed between Krishna and Balram. They are one and the same person. Only under the illusion of Yoga Maya, Balram thinks that I am a different person from Krishna. That is for his own Leela. Multiple personality disorder syndrome, spiritually. I'm sorry to say. It is just a joke. But Krishna undergoes this very things. Oh, I am a different person. I am Jagannath. You are Gopinath. Why are you eating my prasad? I am Sakshi Gopal. You are Jagannath. Don't eat my prasad. No, it's Sakshi Gopal is same as Jagannath. There is no individual. There is no Achintya Bheda Bhed. It is simply illusion or Yoga Maya, which makes Krishna enjoy. He wants to enjoy, so he says, I'll become Lord Ram, I'll become... Whenever you're talking about Vishnu Tattva, there is no Achintya, Bhed, Abhed Tattva. It is only between Shaktis and Krishna. It is only between Shiva and Krishna, Lord Shiva. And it is only between Jivatma and Krishna. There is no Achintya Bheda Bhed between Krishna and Krishna. Although it may appear so, it is simply illusion. Simply an illusion. Now this Advaita philosophy can be understood. Where is the source of that Advaita philosophy? The source is coming from Golok Vrindavan. Lord Shiva copied as Gopeshwar Mahadev. He copied that philosophy and he brought it to the material world and wrongly applied it to the Jiva and Krishna. Actually, it should be applied for Krishna and Krishna. Mayavad. Maya is simply an illusion that does not, actually it's not there. The reality is not there. That Krishna is different from himself. But for his pleasure, Krishna goes under the Shakti known as Yoga Maya, and under that illusory Shakti, Krishna thinks that he is Narayan. He thinks that he is Narsimhadev. He thinks that he is... So this thinking, Prabhupada says, is known as Leela, and that Vaibhav Leela, Vaibhav Prakash, all these are Leela. And when he thinks he is a covered above Vrindavan, he is Swayam Rupa. So thinking, willing and feeling, Prabhupada says, when he changes this, thinking, willing, feeling, Sandhini, Samvit, Ladini. Willing is Sandhini. Thinking is Samvit and feeling is Ladini. When he changes, Krishna changes his thinking, willing, feeling, he changes his various incarnations are manifest. So, the incarnations which are manifest are simply Krishna himself thinking in different ways. That's all. He is not a different person. Simply illusion, simply Maya, that Krishna is thinking I am different people for his enjoyment, pastime, sorry. So, whatever, for his enjoyment, he is just doing this. Now, what Lord Shiva did was copied those concepts from the spiritual world and wrongly applied snake and the rope. He wrongly applied that concept between Jiva and Krishna. He said the Jiva and Brahman are actually same individual. Just like Krishna, Jagannath and Gopinath are same, like that Jiva and Krishna are same. And just because of illusion, Brahman is thinking himself to be a Jivatma, or he is thinking himself to be Ishvara, whereas his reality is he is Brahman. But under illusion, he is thinking himself to be a different person. The reality is that is only applicable to Krishna and Golok Vrindavan, or in material world. When Gopinath and Jagannath are fighting with each other, you can apply this philosophy because they are one and the same person. Simply they are under illusion thinking that I am different. Janbujh ke. Purposely they are doing this for their enjoyment, and they are doing all these things. So that when is applied in the material world, in the material realm, between Jiva and Krishna, that becomes Mayavad. Jiva as an individual is different from Krishna. It can never be one, or Brahman, all these things are being applied here. So when the rope is mistaken for snake, what is the rope? Rope is that Krishna is not different from Krishna. Only under illusion is thinking that Jagannath is different from Sakshi Gopal. That is rope. That is the concept from spiritual world. And when it is applied to the material world, it becomes snake. And what is the snake? That Jivatma is not different from Krishna. Wrongly applied. The concept is same. Concept is as a reality in the spiritual world, but it is wrongly applied in the material world. That becomes Mayavad. So this Achintya Bheda Bhed can explain all the concepts, all the various Vedic statements. Everything can be explained, and it becomes, they are in complete harmony when you understand the concept of Achintya Bheda Bhed, the concept of individuality, which is not explained, which cannot be explained, which cannot be understood. How can fire be a separate individual, whereas light, heat and touch is a component of fire? Without that there is no fire, but they are separate individuals, and fire as a whole is a separate individual. How is that possible? That is Achintya. Prabhupada says heat is Radharani. He says that, Prabhupada, and fire is Krishna. So if you say fire as a whole is Krishna, And heat, light and everything is different, separate personality. But as a personality, he's individual, he's fire. And as an individual, the components, the core components of fire are individuals themselves. And for all practical purposes, they're non-different from Krishna, because what is the meaning of fire without heat, without light, without touch? There is no meaning to fire actually. So, but still, as a person, fire is individually different from heat and light and touch. And what is this individuality? What is this individual? So, just Jivatma also. Jivatma is nothing but combination of Radharani, Samvit Shakti, Sandhini Shakti. But these Shaktis are persons, they are different people. But individual is a third person, fourth person who's created from these three persons. What is that fourth person? Who is that fourth person? And how can be a fourth person exist? What is the meaning of individuality? Is it cognizance? Is it emotions? Is it existence? No, individuality is neither existence nor emotions nor cognizance. Then what is individuality? It's a combination of these three. But what is it? What is individuality? When I say I am an individual, what is it? Without cognizance, I cannot be an individual. Without existence, I cannot be an individual. Without emotions, I cannot be an individual. But what is an individuality? Because emotion is separate Shakti. She is Radharani. Cognizance is separate Shakti. From her we are coming. But we are neither Radharani nor Sandhini Shakti nor Samvit Shakti. We are different. We are a fourth individual. And what is this individuality? Inconceivable. Individuality cannot be conceived. This is the point which is inconceivable. Right now you can understand. You cannot conceive individuality. From the individual comes Krishna, is the individual from whom comes Samvit, Sandhini Samvit and Ladini Shakti. Existence itself is coming from an individual. And how can an individual exist without existence? Inconceivable, isn't it? So that's where I give rest to my case and today's lecture. Hare Krishna.